Well, MAGA cancel culture is in full swing. Jimmy Kimmel has now been canceled. A lot of people are wondering, what exactly did he say? This is a bit of what he said.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the lawbreaker friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel was then ripped off of the air by ABC Disney. His contract was going to be up anyway, and there was a lot of rumors that he wasn't actually going to be getting renewed. And so, a lot of times networks will just find a reason to fire somebody so that they don't have to pay them out. They don't have to, if they're going to cancel your contract or end it, then they could actually kind of save some money by doing that. So it's possible that they had other reasons for doing this. But Donald Trump did come out and say that they're 97 when he was asked about networks criticizing him and should they have their licenses taken away. He said they're 97% against. They give me wholly bad publicity. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. He says when you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, they're not allowed to do that. A lot of people are pointing that at that and saying, wait a minute, this is what the right was against the left doing. The left was doing this. The left did this a lot. And they were calling for people to be canceled. They laughed about it. In fact, let me play you this clip. This is Jimmy Kimmel laughing and mocking the fact when Tucker was taken off of Fox News.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
So there you have it, hypocrites, right? The left is completely being hypocritical. They are up in a firestorm about the censorship that they're now facing coming from the right. Both sides are hypocrites on this completely. Obviously, the right going for the longest time campaigning on we're for free speech, we're against cancel culture, we're against all of this, and then now turning around and doing it. And of course, the excuse is, but Kim, this is different. This is different. And if you can't see the difference, something's wrong with you. Exactly, literally the exact same rhetoric that we heard from the left for years. Now the right is doing it. So certainly the right is being hypocritical by doing it. I don't think two wrongs make a right. However, I understand that also until the left has it happen to them, they maybe won't realize how egregious it actually is. This could go one of two ways. The right going on full cancel culture towards the left could make the left say, wow, yeah, this is really bad. It really does suck. Or more likely, what it's going to do is just backfire worse. And the left, when they get back into power, which they inevitably will at some point, they will just do harsher crackdowns on the right. Here's Barack Obama talking about, this is where we see the hypocrisy coming from the left. Like they act like they're suddenly, absolved of all the years that they did cancel culture. He says, after years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration has taken it to a new and dangerous level by routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators it doesn't like. I mean, does he have amnesia thinking that the left wasn't doing this for years? Roseanne Barr, not my favorite person right now, but nonetheless, she points out the hypocrisy. And she says, remember when you and your wife called Bob Iger to have me fired? Yeah, the left was doing this to everybody over and over for supporting Donald Trump. It started in 2016. If you supported Donald Trump, if you were part of MAGA, they basically said you were a terrorist. Then it went on to January 6th, right? Well, there was COVID, there was January 6th, there was, a variety of the Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, the list goes on of the left freaking out, going after the right, censoring them, uh, forcing social media companies. I mean, hello, remember the Twitter files? This was an entire expose of the administration, government officials basically pressuring social media companies to censor. So Barack Obama saying, well, after years of complaining about this, well, this is a new level. This isn't a new level. This is exactly the same. I don't like it because I don't like it being exactly the same. I don't like now this tit for tat. I did believe that the right was for free speech and that they were going to protect free speech, and that is what they were asking for votes in order to do that. And a lot of people voted for them for that, only to be met with, well, okay, wait, now it's our turn and we get to do this. That's not what people voted for. So I don't like the hypocrisy of it. But I certainly don't want to hear liberals crying about this right now. Here's Gavin Newsom buying and controlling media platforms, firing commentators, canceling shows. These aren't coincidences. It's coordinated and it's dangerous. The GOP does not believe in free speech. They are censoring you in real time. Yeah, you don't believe in it either. I mean, you were the one that wanted to lock everybody down while you went and go ate at the French Laundry. I mean, Gavin Newsom, I don't want to hear this from Obama or Newsom. I just don't. The hypocrisy coming from them is, I mean, just really, truly unbelievable. That like I said, again, it's unbelievable coming from both sides. It's unbelievable the right's doing it after crying about cancel culture for years. And it's unbelievable the left is actually saying, oh, how dare you? Here's Chris Pavlovsky from Rumble saying if anyone on the left actually cared about free speech, they would have been on Rumble years ago. Yeah, but the left wouldn't because the left wanted to claim that Rumble was a far right platform when really it was just a platform that didn't have canceling and censorship. Unlike YouTube, that was ripping everybody their shows off of the platform or shadow banning them for years. I mean, I was shadow banned on YouTube for 4 years. They wouldn't let me gain any subscribers, even though I had videos that literally had 1 million views. Not a single subscriber. You explain that to me. And it's because they were shadow banning. That's what they were doing. They said we can't allow certain voices to grow because they're dangerous. That is what the left did for a long time. And now they're crying these crocodile tears. And you know what they're going to do? And this is the dangerous part about it. This is why I don't like it. I mean, you might laugh and say, well, the left is now getting a dose of their own medicine. Sure, they are. Totally. I get it. But they're also ramping up. They're going to take this and they're going to ensure that next time when they censor people on the right, they do it for good. They're going to do it harder. They're going to go after them in a way that you and I can't even begin to imagine right now. So this isn't really healthy, this whole tit for tat thing. I understand I get the temptation to do it, but it doesn't lead us anywhere great. Um, Now Trump is ratcheting it up even more. One thing the left did, again, the hypocrisy of this, the left said MAGA was a terrorist organization. For years, the left said MAGA was a brainwashed cult. MAGA was terrorists. MAGA is a bunch of alt-right Nazis. MAGA's fascists. MAGA's, they labeled MAGA all of these various things, and they actively went after MAGA. They actively went after, and many of us said, you can't do this. This is an ideology. You cannot be going after MAGA. Just like in Germany, they're trying to go after the AfD party. They're trying to silence them, censor them, not allow them to run in elections. And they think that they can target them, claiming they're some sort of terrorist organization when it's an idea. It's an idea, a political ideology that is spreading amongst the people because they don't like your politics, because they don't like the government that they're under, because they think that things have gone awry, and that is supposed to be a democracy. And so MAGA is a reaction to neoliberalism. It was an America first ideology, less wars, more bring it back to America. Of course, things have shifted lately. We've seen MAGA kind of go in this pro-Israel, Israel, anything Israel wants direction. But it was absolutely outrageous that the left was trying to target MAGA, claiming it was some sort of terrorist organization. But here's Donald Trump saying Antifa are terrorists and that he's going after Antifa. He says, well, the White House tweeted out actually, so the White House retweeted this. So Trump tweets this, the White House retweets it, everybody's retweeting this, all of the politicians, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas. Donald Trump says, I'm pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standard and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, Antifa is not an actual organization. It's like MAGA. It's a way of thinking. It's a loosely related group of people that all have a certain way. They have a certain ideology. Now, I don't like Antifa. You might not like Antifa, and you might say, no, but Kim, this is different. No, it isn't. It isn't different. Going after MAGA, the ideology, and label them terrorists is no different than going after Antifa and labeling them terrorists. Now, I realize that Antifa, where Antifa is different than MAGA is Antifa is not actually popular. MAGA's popular. MAGA actually gained, a huge number of people in the United States from even the left, right, and center. I mean, a lot of people who were for Bernie Sanders ended up voting for Donald Trump. So MAGA is an actual mainstream populist ideology. Antifa is not. Antifa is more fringe. But just because it's fringe, it doesn't mean that it's okay to label it as terrorism. This is very dangerous to say if you think a certain way, you must be a terrorist. There's always people inside of every group who are going to commit acts of violence. That doesn't mean the entire group in the way of thinking is therefore violent. Certainly, Antifa's been behind people who think in line of Antifa, people who associate themselves with Antifa, label themselves Antifa. Many of them have committed acts of violence. That's true. But this is not an actual organization. And to say those who fund it, if it's not an actual organization, the danger in this is you could label anyone who donates, let's say, to AOC. You could say they're Antifa. She's Antifa. And so they're Antifa. And so if you donated to AOC, then you are now a terrorist. Because it's not an actual organization and it's an idea, you could label any idea you want as Antifa, any idea you don't like. It's just like anti-Semitism, right? You could just label anything you don't like as anti-Semitism and then say, well, you're committing a crime in this country, a thought crime, a speech crime, because you said we shouldn't support Israel or Israel's a genocidal country, and that's anti-Semitism. That is Antifa. It's a similar way of thinking. If we're going to be going after Antifa and those who fund it, they could really just slap this label on anybody. And the left did that about MAGA. The left did. They certainly tried to go after MAGA to try to shut it down. The whole point was to try to shut it down. But what did it do when the left went after MAGA? It only grew bigger. So I don't think this strategy of we're going to go after these Antifa terrorists. Now what you're seeing is a lot of I think a lot of people who don't associate with Antifa on the left, they've never associated with Antifa. They're suddenly saying, I'm Antifa. We're all Antifa now. Because if you're going to go after an idea, that is antithetical to really the fundamental thought of what America is supposed to be. And you're going to see a rise in Antifa, people claiming they're Antifa, whether they really are or they aren't. Here's Tucker Carlson even calling out Trump about this kind of threat to free speech, and thought crimes.
You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors to create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever. And there never will be. Because if they can tell you what to say, they're telling you what to think. There is nothing they can't do to you because they don't consider you human. They don't believe you have a soul. A human being with a soul, a free man, has a right to say what he believes, not to hurt other people, but to express his views.
Right. Any view he wants should be allowed to express that. But instead, we're getting a lot of, no, this is different. These people are dangerous and their speech needs to be silenced. And that is really no different than what the left was thinking about the right. Here's J.D. Vance saying, stop both siding this. Here I am both siding it. He's saying,
you talk to the shooter's mother, you talk to the shooter's father, you talk to the local district attorney, you talk to the FBI director or the deputy director of the FBI. You look at every ounce of evidence that we have, and it is clear. This is a person who grew up in a pretty normal family, actually had a pretty good home life, who was radicalized by the far left, by the social networks of the far left, by the ideas of the far left, and got so far down the path of radicalization that he killed my friend. That is not a both sides problem. My friend is dead because of left-wing political radicalization. And if you want to cut that out, then be honest about it and look yourself in the mirror.
But this is what the left was saying after, was it Charlotte, North Carolina, right? The rally that went on there, and there was a death, and they said this is what happens with the right. I mean, they pointed out at any death and said this is what happens on the right. This is extreme. This is not okay. People die because of MAGA. We have to stop MAGA at all costs. Here's JD Vance. I just want to play this for you because now he's changed his tune. Here he was back in February saying that, our own government encouraged private companies to silence people, but we're not going to be doing that in this administration. Yet that is exactly what's happening right now. Watch this.
Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Well, you clearly disagree to your own thought now. I mean, this is what happens. Here's the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. He is saying that, when you listen to him the first minute, it makes sense. He says, we as a society should not accept this. And he's right. We as a society should not accept this type of aggression, violence. We shouldn't accept this because people have different thoughts. But then at the end, he says, we as a state must do something about it.
We have a problem in our society that we need to come to grips with, and that is a murder of somebody, an assassination of somebody is something that's tragic, especially a person who leaves behind a wife and 2 kids who now not have a father. If we have members of our society, whether they be students or otherwise, who celebrate an assassination, we have dramatic course correction that we have to take in this state. And a place where we can engage in that course correction is in our schools and on our campuses. Whenever we see students who are celebrating an assassination, that goes beyond the bounds of what is humane, goes beyond the limits of what is humanity, and it must end. And we as a society, we as a state, must send a signal that behavior like that, celebrating an assassination, is wrong in a civil society.
Sounds exactly like the left. It really does. It's not just cultural. We as a state, we as the government must do something to crack down on this. Here's Ted Cruz. He says that they're basically going to allow prosecutors to use the RICO Act to go after financiers of far left violence. Again, how do you, if somebody gives money to somebody, how do you then link them and say, well, they were the ones, if this person or if this group commits an act of violence? I mean, it gets really, really muddy when you do stuff like this, and it's just an excuse. It's going to be unclear by design so that it can be used against all of us when convenient for the government. Here's Ted Cruz.
And the shell casings have multiple references to slogans that Antifa has popularized. I believe there is considerable money funding it. I would note that I've introduced legislation called the Stop Funders Act. Stop Funders Act would add rioting to the list of predicate offenses under RICO. I believe the money should be tracked and prosecuted under RICO. And both the Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots of a couple of years ago and the pro-open border riots in Los Angeles and other cities of this past year, I believe there was significant money behind those riots. I'm not the only person who noticed at the anti-Semitic protests and violent protests on college campuses that many of the tents all matched. And so I would ask, would it aid your ability to prosecute these matters if Congress passed into law the Stop Funders Act and if rioting was added to the list of predicate offenses for RICO?
Yes.
So I just want to point out that this isn't going to be used just against Antifa. And this is what I think the point is what I'm trying to get across is you might think, yeah, but Antifa, they've done all of these bad things. We have to stop them. It's fine to label them terrorists. It's fine to go after them with RICO charges. It's fine to go after people who fund them and label them as terrorists and throw them in jail. It's fine to do all this. We have to do something. We have to do something. The problem is these laws will be vague. The problem is that they will be able to be used by anybody who has ideas that you don't like. Here's an example of how this could be used against the right. House Speaker Mike Johnson recently had a private meeting with AIPAC and Jewish leaders on Wednesday on Capitol Hill, where he reportedly pledged to screen out isolationist GOP candidates to prevent that wing of the party from growing larger in the House. So here is the right wanting to censor the right. And the way they're going to use this is they're going to say, well, terrorism. They'll start with Antifa because they think you'll get on board with that. So they'll start it with Antifa. They always start with something everybody pretty much agrees with. And everybody pretty much agrees, we don't like Antifa. So they say, okay, good, easy, low-hanging fruit. Then what they're going to do is say, okay, now we could use these same rules and laws and we could apply it to any thought that we deem to be incoherent with the establishment way of thinking. And that would be Tucker Carlson's, Candace Owens, right? That would be the people on the right who are questioning Israel and going in that direction. And even Mike Johnson having meetings with them and saying, well, we are going to pledge and do what we can to root these people out. This is where it starts. It starts with, we're going to primary them. You have leaders in the government saying, we're not going to allow for democracy to just unfold. We're instead going to go after these anti-Israel right-wingers, these America First right-wingers, these, hey, we want to take our government back from Israel right-wingers. We're going to go after them too. So it doesn't just stop at Antifa, because they're going to then classify, like they have been, pro-Palestine as Hamas, anti-Israel is Hamas. Everything's Hamas, and Hamas is a terrorist organization according to the government. And so they will be then using these same exact rules that they apply to Antifa. They're going to start using it to anybody that they claim is Hamas. And they will label anybody and everybody who criticizes Israel as Hamas. And suddenly you find yourself censored, and you championed it under Antifa. You thought it was fine under Antifa. But now when it's happening to you and they're claiming you're Hamas, what are you going to do about it? This is why the whole saying goes, right? It happened to so-and-so and I did nothing. And it happened to so-and-so and I did nothing. And then I was the only one left and it happened to me. And there was nobody to defend me. I mean, that is exactly what's going on here. And so this is why it's important to remember that even if you hate Antifa and you think, yeah, but this is a good idea, these supposed good ideas rooted in these supposedly good intentions will be used against you. And here's there's Mike Johnson right there basically waging war on fellow Republicans, saying these are Republicans with the wrong thoughts. And it starts off with, we'll just primary them, but it will grow into, oh, now we have these new laws. We have RICO laws against Antifa. We could use these same RICO laws against pro-Hamas people, anybody who's against Israel, anti-Semites. We got to go after all of them. It's extremely dangerous. And this is ratcheting up. I mean, this is whatever the left did, it was wrong. People voted against it. They didn't want it. Donald Trump got the biggest voting outpour that he received in the last election that he's ever had because people were fed up with the left. And the right going and doing the exact same things isn't going to help. And when people point that out, they say, yeah, but the left did it. So what are you going to do? Go vote for them? Well, yeah, people will just sit out and they won't vote at all. And when they don't vote because they sit there and they realize, well, I used to vote for the left. I'm an independent. I moved over and voted for the right because they were championing free speech. This time, I'm just not going to vote. It's not about independents saying, oh, I'm going to go vote for the left now. That's not what anybody's saying in the independent world. You know what they're saying? I'm just not going to vote. And you know what's going to happen? The leftists are going to rise up in bigger numbers. They're going to vote, and they're going to beat out the people on the right who are up voting because they're thinking that they've got this in the bag. And the left is going to win at midterms. And the independents are going to sit this one out because both sides suck. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.